Hey professionals, SoFeya Sarah Joseph here, author of Choreography of Awakening, international speaker, former Olympic figure skating coach, and founder and creator of imagintlife, a revolutionary path to mastery of self that leads towards creation of your masterpiece, the life you were born to live according to your life's blueprint. Welcome to Professionals on Air podcast, a podcast where we discuss how to walk, talk, live, and grow authentically as a professional in the 21st century. It is my intention to bring you diverse and exciting speakers and prove that no matter where we come from and what we do, there are clear laws that work through us all that we can tap into to create what we desire. And today I have the pleasure and honor to introduce you to my amazing guest, Andrea Mason. Andrea is the coach, speaker, creator, and innovator of the life transformational journey called Play. Plan life according to you, where she helps professionals achieve personal freedom through the healing power of forgiveness. Her motto, follow your heart and not the heart, nor the heart, is the reminder that once you achieve personal freedom, you can achieve anything. And that is just one of the hats Andrea is wearing. Let's welcome Andrea and let her share her amazing journey and all the inspiring things she does to empower people everywhere she goes. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Sophia, for that amazing introduction. I appreciate it. Hello, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everyone who is watching. It is an honor and privilege to be here on this platform with you, like minded individuals making their mission, their message to enhance the quality life of all. Thank you so much, Sophia.
Thank you. It's amazing to like you start off and you can immediately just feel, oh, here comes the energy that's really going to envelope everyone who is joining us on the show today.
Yes.
And yeah, share us a little bit. How did you started what you're doing and what are you doing?
Yes. So it's crazy how this started because I was born in a war-torn drug zone era of an underdeveloped country, that of Colombia, South America, during the cartel. And during that time, my parents were unable to care for me, let alone themselves. And they put me up for adoption. And in doing so, I came to America at 11 months old, weighing in at 11 pounds. That's a pound per month. And unbeknownst to me, when I was old enough, my parents had told me at the age of 7 that I was adopted. And this was a treasure, yet a tragedy. It was a treasure, for I was given a second chance at life, and I was given the amazing opportunity to enhance my quality of life and live life to the fullest. However, as I had grown up and evolved and, increased personal development, what had happened was that I was then dealing with the tragedy of having no identity, no knowledge of who I was, no knowledge of who my parents were, no documents, no medical records, and no photographs. And so, what propelled me to be where I am today was I took a step and a leap of faith to change my channel, to change my stars.
Mm.
I went into the industries of social work and psychology for social work to understand the lifestyles, the cultural diversity, and the different beliefs and mannerisms that individuals, all parts of the world, were learning and living. And then I understood the psychology behind it, the science, why we do what we do, why we don't do what we do. See, in the first infant, from in utero to infantry, that is where the nature comes in. That's where the ground foundation comes in of the basic fundamentals of being an individual. Then the fast forward, the first 7 years is when nurturance comes in. And that's where you learn about your morals, ethics, values, and beliefs. So for me, I had the best of both worlds. Unfortunately, the first 7 months of my life was in war. It was during the cartel, explosions, heinous crimes, and drugs, and just a bad environment with the limited essentials and assets you need to survive. And when my parents had realized this wasn't safe, nor could they care for themselves, they sent me to the promised land. That's where I learned about nurturance, unconditional love, wealth, health, and just the amazing gift, the gift of presence, the gift of life, but most importantly, the gift of love. And that's what has instilled me to be here today, to motivate people, to learn from where I've been, to know where I am, and to understand where I'm going. And that's what brings me here today as the global voice under Mr. Les Brown's mentorship upon this amazing platform of yours, of the professionals. Thank you.
What a story, Andrea. I was just having goosebumps, like, oh my gosh. you know, I mean, it's hard enough. I know you would yell a little, but I can just imagine the trauma and that you experienced as a child, and it's not many people can even relate to that because it's, I
Yes.
mean, things that we take for granted, like our identity and our parenthood and photographs that we have with families, and being a 7-year old and discovering that that's such a
Yes.
huge trauma.
Yes.
And I can just imagine, I
Yes.
mean, growing up and being around other children that have their parents and
Mhm.
pictures and memories that they share, and being kind of stripped of that.
Yes. It was very difficult. When I came to America, you know, I was the individual that unfortunately you see on the TV screen with the distended stomach, malnourished. I was only 11 months when I came here, and I was only 11 pounds. And when I was old enough to understand, my parents had given me the greatest gift, their transparency, their honesty, and acting with integrity, saying, you know what, Andrea? You're a gift to us. You're adopted, and we're blessed and privileged to have you. And it wasn't easy for me. I came to America and I had the characteristics of someone of another country. I had a little bit of an accent. I had different physical features than my adoptive parents. And I never really fit in. SoFeya, I had this missing piece always in my life, and the underlying thread of abandonment. When you're 7 years old and you're told you're adopted, you're kind of like, okay. And they're like, you're our gift, and it's great. But then as you grow older, I was bullied. I was thrown into lockers, thrown into garbage cans because I didn't fit in. My petite stature was difficult, and I didn't look like my parents. And you know how kids can be. They don't understand. Why don't you know your parents? Why don't you look like your parents? And it was a rough time for me to understand. But my parents always instilled in me, Andrea, no matter what you do what you love and do your best. And that has been the footprint and the path that has been instilled in me throughout my entire life. It wasn't easy for me during my life to understand things because I had to dissect it time and time again just to understand what the message was, what was the mission behind it. And if I didn't get it, it was another failure in my mind, my cognizance of, here we go again, another mistake, another heartache, another trial, another tribulation. But as I'm growing up and as I'm growing and professionally and personally and meeting individuals all around, the one thing that we have as a common thread is we're all human. And somewhere or another, we are different, and our differences make us authentic. And our creator wouldn't want us all the same, or else we'd be boring. So that's what makes everything unique.
It's so true. And it's it's a blessing to take those lemons and
Mhm.
turn them into the most delicious lemonade.
Yes, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
somebody could just grow up in your place and just complain and
Mhm.
be in that place stuck with life is unfair and why did this happen to me and
Mhm.
not do anything about it. And you took that and turned it into your power. And now your story is the power that you can use to inspire and empower other people. And I really, really honor you for that and so honored to hear this story
Thank
as
you.
well.
Mhm.
Andrea, what would you say? What professionalism mean to you?
Professionalism means to me making mistakes and learning from them,
Hmm.
allowing yourself to fail forward. We are our own worst critic. And until we allow ourselves to be honest with ourselves, transparent, and realize everything's going to work out, but it's all about perspective. And professionalism is just doing what you love over and over again and learning from your lessons, learning from your losses, and always acting with integrity and love.
And I know that you are a master of that.
Yes, yes. I try to be, yes.
Well, you couldn't be where you are without that.
Right,
That's for sure.
correct.
So really, testing the power to your words as walking the talk.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, and thinking about this, I have a quote right above me on my
Mhm,
wall,
mhm,
and the quote is, "My life is my message."
mhm.
And I would really like it just came for me that how are you sharing that is exactly that. Your life is your message. I
Yes,
can totally see that.
yes, yes. You know, the
What
hardest thing for me, oh, pardon me, the hardest thing for me was when I looked up to individuals throughout my life, whether it be teachers, coaches, authoritative figures, and they would tell me what the right thing was to do, and they would tell me how and why it should be done, and then they didn't follow through. It was so disappointing. It was hurtful. And one of the key points that was difficult for me to swallow was choosing the path to integrity because it's a very lonely path. And we forget more often than none everything we do at every moment is a choice. And once we realize that, that's when doors of opportunity open. That's when lessons are learned. And that's when the power of perseverance turns into passion.
that's such a powerful and magical lesson.
Mhm.
And it is not easy for sure. And a lot of people, like you're saying, but a lot of people even will say integrity is such an important trait for me.
Mhm.
And then they do exactly the thing that they speak against. And it's been such, and just like you, I'd be like holding these people accountable to that. And then took some time to realize that maybe people just have different views of integrity. Or maybe they don't even see it. And it's not that they're trying to do that on purpose.
Right, right.
And whatever your integrity is, your level of understanding, be that
Hmm.
the best of your ability.
Right.
And that's all that we can be truly responsible for our own integrity, no one else's. That's
Right.
for sure.
Yes.
Andrea, what would you say is, I would say that your biggest strength as a professional, but I think you already answered that question, or you have more to share.
I always have more. I always have more. My biggest strength as my profession is I never stop asking questions. Because I learned in the industries of social work and psychology, which actually allowed me to change gears, was when I would go into, as we spoke before, into the jail cells, into the institutions, into the schools or the shelters or the hospitals. I was requested to read the individual's profile prior to meeting them. And SoFeya, I can count on a million hands how many times I refused because I said, that's your interpretation of the individual. That person I'm meeting is someone's daughter, sister, mother, brother, uncle, or father. This is what you had suggested based on some reports and evidence of others. I want to meet the individual as they are. So, piggybacking to your question, I always ask questions. I went in with no premeditated idea or conception or interpretation of who the individual was, and I just listened. I talked to them, I connected with them. And I remember coming home one day and my family members was like, "Oh, how was work?" I said, "Very interesting." Obviously, due to HIPAA regulations and privacy, I said, "Well, I met this individual who actually, unfortunately, was at the wrong place at the wrong time, had limited and lacked knowledge, and took the lives of his parents." And the first immediate reaction was, "How could you talk to such monster?" And I said, "That's your interpretation due to the lack and limited of knowledge that you possess." I spoke to that individual, and that's all that individual was exposed to, taught, and had limited and lack of nurturance and love and trust. So, my biggest strength in professionalism is asking questions, understanding, getting the resources from the actual source to be part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Well, that brings me to, what is your biggest weakness as a professional?
My biggest weakness as a professional is doubting myself. Am I good enough? Am I going to be enough? And that correlates to the beginning of what we talked about, the abandonment as an adoptee, the lack of trust, the lack of being enough and being there for someone. One of the key points in life is, in order to love, you have to lose. In order to hurt, you need to feel. In order to fear, you have to lose. And when you go through things and you experience it, that's when you have a better understanding. That's when you have the connection, the sympathy, the empathy of what individuals are going through. And when you don't have that with yourself, that heightened awareness, that self confidence, it could be damaging. And when we are encouraged to be workaholics, to do your best, to work to perfection, that's when we get our skewed false beliefs. If I may, a quick situation was in 2007, I had lost my mother, and it was horrific. It was probably the horriblest day of my life. I had instilled everything I learned, loved, shared, was fearful into her. And that day she had left. And I had turned my love into lack. I separated myself from everyone for 2 whole years. I was numb. I was robotic. I wasn't human. I would drive to and from the site, which one way is over an hour, just sitting there. And then it's clicked. One of my family members said, Andrea, you have a family. She's right here in your heart. Don't forget that. Because once you forget that, you forget her. And over that course, I thought that was the saving grace, right? Okay, she's in my heart. But I was angry. I was frustrated. How could you take another mother from me? Who does that? And I went through my days, mundane days, misery loves company, and just riding the waves until a few years later, I got severely sick. I was at my job, going in early, leaving late, had difficulty breathing, decided just to, use my inhaler because it was as needed basis. And I fainted. Went to the hospital, checked me out, everything was okay, sent me home. Less than 24 hours, I got a call from the doctor. Andrea, we need you to come in. Doc, I'm okay. I got a job to do. I got a family. I got to go. I can't be doing this. You need to come to the hospital. Okay, told my family, went to the hospital. They put me in and they said, Andrea, you have the conditions of myasthenia gravis, which to those of you who don't know is a terminal condition of the deterioration of an autoimmune system. And I said, what is happening? This can't be right. I'm fine. And then he showed me the chart. Next thing I knew, SoFeya, I was on the ICU unit, hooked up to machines, and lost all capability of all 4 of my limbs, unable to breathe on my own, let alone maintain food. I didn't know what happened. So I was on the hospital bed, just basically stoic. I remember my husband had called me because he was tending to our young child. And he said, remember a couple years ago when we started changing our lives? I said, yeah. He said, remember watching The Secret? I said, yeah, I remember that. And he said, remember the medical excerpt to avoid spoiler alerts? I said, yes. He said, I want you to remember that and apply it. The next day, the doctor came in and said, okay, Andrea, we're going to run the main routine, but unfortunately, nothing's changing. If you are unable to eat on your own, maintain food, and walk, you will be here until further notice. I said, okay, doctor. Team came in, draped my feet over the bed. I jumped down due to my petite stature. I walked to the nurse's station and back and was able to consume my breakfast, snack, and lunch. And by the afternoon, I was medically cleared. I remember driving home. My husband was at work and my father picked us up with my girlfriend. And we went to our son's school. And I hid in the back. I was so excited. I was so enthusiastic, right? And he came in. He was, I don't know, he was young at the time. And my father said, how are you doing, mijo? And I turned around. I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, mijo. He turned around. And I'll never forget this. He said, Mommy, it's like Christmas. I prayed last night for you to come home, and here you are. And that Mind over matter was the changing pivot in my life to never give up. And
Mm.
before that, just a little tidbit. Before that, I had a laundry list of conditions that I didn't correlate until hindsight is 2020, right? I had osteoporonia, fibromyalgia, 7 ulcers on my gallbladder that had to be immediately removed, an appendectomy, exercise-induced asthma, carpal tunnel syndrome, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and so much more. And today, from that date today, I have a clear bill of health because my mind, as Mr. Bob Proctor says, disease cannot withstand a healthy mind.
Hmm. Is that how you came to forgiveness?
Yes, because I realized, SoFeya, I'm not going to do it, SoFeya. That's when I realized the lifestyle my mom would have had wouldn't be the one that she wanted. I remember when she was not doing well, we had prepared a birthday celebration, a milestone birthday celebration for my parents. They're 2 weeks apart. And I had called everyone. And when the running joke in our family is when we have a party, everybody shows up. And so at this event, there was 70 plus people from their grade school, elementary years to the present. And I remember they were a few minutes late. My parents are not late. And I called them, and my dad answered the phone. And I said, Dad, where are you? You're going to be late. This is a surprise party. What are you doing? He said, Andrea, I don't think we're going to be able to make it. I said, why not? He goes, Mom's not doing well. I said, what? She goes, she's not doing well. And I had to tell him, I said, Dad, we threw you a surprise party. Everybody's here. And my mom mustered up the strength, came in her luxurious chair, rolling in. And everybody saw her, only to come to find out a few days after that, she left. And I was hard on myself. Did I send her an early repast? In America, a repast, I'm not sure if everybody understands, but in a repast is a celebration of family and friends after someone has passed on. And then I realized that was the greatest gift she's ever received, because the night before, she said, you know what? These are the cards I was dealt. It's okay. I lived my life. I loved my life. I was here to see and be with you, and a great daughter to your grandmother before she left, with you in my arms. I built a legacy of love for all. And
Thank
that's what I'm
you.
doing.
Thank you for your vulnerability and strength to
Welcome.
share.
Yes.
For opening your heart.
Yes.
Andrea, you worked with the legendary Les Brown.
Yes.
What would you say is the most important thing you learned from him that every professional should know?
The most important thing I learned from Mr. Brown was what connected us in the beginning. His quote, are you going through it or are you growing through it? And that is how we connected. He taught me that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength and awareness. And if we fail, we fail forward. If you can look up, you can get up. And his jovial sense of humor, his heart, he lives through his heart. I'll never forget a conversation we had on the phone one time. And I said to him, you know, we were talking about the story I just shared about my mom, and he misunderstood me and thought my mom was sitting there. And he goes, "Let me talk to the woman." I said, "Mr. Brown, pardon me. Pardon me if I misinformed you, but she passed away." And I said, it's rough, not having a family. He goes, "Yes, it's rough. But we were blessed to have two mothers, one who gave us life and one who showed us love." And that is the legendary Mr. Brown that I treasure and value the most, because without him telling me on Thanksgiving Eve of 2020 to dream big, 11 pounds, 11 months. They didn't know then, but they know now, was his quote.
Hmm.
Yes.
Andrea, imagine that your name changed today and you are no longer called Andrea. And you have to choose a new name out of these four: success, trust, courage, or passion. Which of these names would you choose, and what would change in your life as a result?
Hmm. Let me make sure I understood. Success, courage, trust, or passion.
Yes,
Correct?
yes.
Courage.
So your name is Courage Masons.
Yes.
Yes?
Okay. Yes.
So
Courage
you-
Mason. Yes. I had to add an S on my last name because somebody else used it.
so your name changed into Courage. How would your life change now?
Getting out of my own way
Hmm.
and taking the leap of faith and always believing that everything is working out for
Yay. Let's do that.
me. I
Well,
just got chills.
so here's my question to the audience. Imagine that your name changed today and you have to choose a new name out of these four: success, trust, courage, or passion. Which of these names would you choose and what would change in your life as a result? Write your chosen word in the comments or send me a private message to receive a gift from me. And Andrea, I wanted to thank you so much for this amazing interview, for your vulnerability and courage, your openness, your authenticity to share your heart with all of us. And I know you have a gift to the audience. And also, where can people find you? Well, I see andreamasons.com.
Yes. Correct.
That's your website, right?
Yes.
So we'll post that link. That's the way you want people to find you? Is that
Yes.
right?
And also, before I go, I would like to acknowledge, it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes someone to believe in you. And sometimes that someone is a stranger at first. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Nelson Beltajar, thepositivedrip.com, for instilling and reminding me to alter my perspective that the
Mm,
word impossible is possible because I'm in front of it. And
mm,
my gift to you is to complimentary session with me, 30-minute complimentary session, and they can connect with me at am.pressplay@yahoo.com to receive their appreciative gift of the complimentary session and put in the subject line, the professionals. So I know where you came from.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll put it in the comments below as well,
Yes,
so that you can definitely reach Andrea and get your session.
yes,
It'll be amazing. I know that. So don't miss that opportunity.
yes,
And professionals, thank you so much for tuning in to our show, the Professionals on Air podcast, a podcast where we discuss how to walk, talk, live, and grow authentically
yes.
as a professional in the 21st century. And I'm glad you were here today because you could experience what it means walking, talking, living, and growing authentically as
Yes.
a professional in the 21st century today, as Andrea was such a beautiful, beautiful guest to demonstrate that.
Thank
And if you guys want to be a featured guest, please send me a direct message. And to learn more about Andrea, visit her website. You see the link on the screen right now, and there will be more links provided in the comments.
Yes.
And we appreciate your comments and feedback. And can't wait to see you next Wednesday, where I will introduce you or reintroduce you to Jason DeLuc, an expert in building culture of responsibility and authority. As always, send us your questions. Ciao.
Ciao. Thank you.